Hey guys, it's Bazza here from Living in Beta. Today we're back with another Gamer's Glance. The wait is finally over. We've arrived at the conclusion to Kratos and Atreus' Norse Chronicle. Baldur is dead. Thimbleweir is well underway. It's time for the Ghost of Sparta to face Ragnarok. For those new to the series, God of War Ragnarok continues the story of Kratos and his son Atreus. Fans were first introduced to Atreus during 2018's God of War, with Kratos almost unrecognisable in temperament compared to his previous outings. Ragnarok follows in the same vein as 2018's God of War, which provided a fresh gameplay perspective compared to the previous fixed camera of the hack-and-slash titles. For new or returning players, Ragnarok offers a handy recap of the previous game's events. Players can expect a meaty narrative and weighty combat to sink their teeth into. With that, let's get into the game. Ragnarok opens on a contemplative Kratos, clutching the bag which previously contained Faye's ashes. His moment of reflection is quickly broken when Atreus returns from a successful hunt. This is an older, stronger Atreus who is beginning to uncover the extent of his godlike powers. From a wiry youngster in 2018's God of War, it's an interesting dynamic shift to see an Atreus that is now more than capable of cutting his own path, no longer reliant on his father physically as before. From the time we've spent so far, the main narrative focus seems to be Kratos and Atreus working to find a way to prevent, or perhaps simply survive, the prophesied end of days in Ragnarok. This journey points them in the direction of the Norse god of war, Tyr. An early visit from Thor and Odin makes it painfully clear that Odin fears the outcome if Tyr is found, spiking the interest of Atreus further.
That one has to stop his search for Tyr.
Yeah. We know what you've been up to. Stop it.
Tyr's old ways are dead. He is dead.
Atreus proceeds to lead Kratos to a discovery he made involving the Jotnar shrines. A hidden aspect to these shrines which appears to detail the truth behind the etched tales. It's through this that Kratos and Atreus uncover the true fate of Tyr, imprisoned but very much alive, prompting Kratos and Atreus to begin their search.
That's it then. Tyr's in Svartalfheim somewhere, imprisoned in a mine. So, what now?
Throughout the journey to scatter Faye's ashes, Kratos and Atreus broke a lot of eggs. Thor, Odin and Freya are all out for their pound of flesh. The theme of revenge is all too familiar to veteran God of War players. It will be interesting to see how this plays out for Freya, who is now dead set on wiping our Ashen protagonist off the face of the earth. Breathtaking feels like an understatement when describing the environmental design, character detail, and atmosphere on offer. Whether it's the battle scars etched into Kratos' face, the deep, rich backdrops draped lovingly over each area, or the accompanying score, which is subtle when needed and bombastic as required, you'll be in awe of what Santa Monica has created here.
Clever won't beat me!
Voice acting and motion capture has come on leaps and bounds in the past decade when it comes to video games, and this progress is on full display in Ragnarok. The high quality voice acting and motion capture helps greatly with the believability of the performances as well as the emotional resonance of each character. Narrative games live and die on their ability to invest you in the plight of their characters. Ragnarok knocks it out of the park.
Drinking is all we ever do, ever. It's not enough. We can't hide forever.
We do not hide.
Shifting to gameplay, Ragnarok is very much an evolution of 2018's formula. We again utilise the over-the-shoulder view to navigate the various environments, with climbing and traversal being a key aspect of exploration. Verticality seems to be a bigger focus this time around, with players able to quickly ascend and descend cliffs with the help of Kratos' blades. Combat again provides players with a varied arsenal of moves and finishers to decimate enemies and bosses thrown their way. The Blades of Chaos are available fairly early on, which makes narrative sense given their appearance in the previous game. Combat feels weighty, crunchy, and extremely satisfying. Pulling off perfect parries or successfully juggling multiple enemies provides a keen sense of cathartic release. There are of course some new additions, such as an aerial attack initiated by running off a significant drop and pressing light attack. Runic attacks make a return, with the player able to choose their preferred loadout. Speaking of returning mechanics, Atreus will aid Kratos in combat via his bow, as well as with melee combos and holds. A key aspect to note which should please fans is enemy variety. From what we've played so far, this seems to be drastically improved from God of War 2018, which at times could feel a bit stale due to the lack of enemy diversity. The abundance of new enemies encourages players to experiment with different combat styles in order to take advantage of the specific enemy weaknesses, rather than becoming over-reliant on the tried and tested. Successful combat encounters provide the player with experience for both Kratos and Atreus. This can be used to unlock new moves for different combat styles, allowing the player to initially focus on improving and scaling their preferred weapon of choice. The RPG gear element also makes a return, this time providing players with a greater choice of equipment to suit their specific playstyle. An example of this, early on, players will be able to choose between a shield which rewards last second parries but has weaker defense, or a shield which is designed to absorb damage whilst providing a slamming attack. Each gear piece has a specific bonus, for example strength, allowing players to carve out their own build. If this continues into the mid and late game, it could lead to promoting different loadouts depending on the encounter. As we've come to expect with big budget titles, set pieces are dotted throughout the journey, providing heart-racing, edge-of-your-seat moments to keep gameplay feeling fresh. Ragnarok very much seems to be a refinement of the gameplay systems within God of War 2018. It's safe to say, if you enjoyed 2018, you'll be right at home with Ragnarok's gameplay.
She wouldn't give up that easy, would she?
She never does. Stay alert.
Moving on to performance, we played God of War Ragnarok on a PS5 utilising performance mode. We have not yet encountered any noticeable frame drops, crashes or stutters. Performance seems rock solid even in more demanding scenes or areas. If players prefer, they can of course choose the quality option for higher fidelity at the sacrifice of frames per second, but let's be honest, you can't beat a smooth 60. We'll keep an eye on performance as we continue our journey throughout the Norse realms. In terms of price, players will be looking at spending between £60 to £70 or around $70 depending on where they purchase their copy. It's a difficult pill to swallow, but AAA titles are now hitting the £70 mark consistently, especially on PlayStation. The price can only be justified by the buyer. In this case, the £62 we paid is entirely worth it for us, given how we're huge fans of the franchise. However, we can fully appreciate the need to wait for a sale. For those who are new here, we use a unique system for our recommendations. This from worst to best is Keep the Receipt, a game which failed to live up to expectation and isn't worth playing. One Night Stand, a game which could be worth a dabble if there's nothing else in your backlog that takes your fancy. Frequent Fallback, a game which is decent enough to return to once you finish playing your most anticipated titles. Pull a Sickie, a game which is so good it's worth the guilt of faking illness to get a day off work. And finally, Book a Week Off, a game that's so great you need to sacrifice a week's annual leave to satisfy your urge to binge this beauty. God of War Ragnarok achieves the highest honours with Book a Week Off. Extremely satisfying visceral combat, a deeply engaging narrative accompanied by an incredible soundtrack make this all too easy to recommend. Ragnarok's shadow looms large over Game of the Year discussions. Well guys, that's our first thoughts and initial impressions on God of War Ragnarok. Let us know in the comments if you've picked up Ragnarok and how you're finding it. If you enjoyed the video, drop us a like and subscribe if you want to see more. As always, I'll catch you in the next one.